What's up, guys? Welcome to the Cool Beans podcast. I'm Raymond.
And I'm Bree, and he's the cool,
And she's the Beans.
as you would know from our intro video. So we're very excited for today's very first episode. And today we actually have our very first interviewee. Please welcome
Gina
Campagnini. Welcome, Gina, to our podcast. We're very excited to have you.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're basically just going to be asking her a couple questions just to get to know her life and her background and who she is. And we're going to be drinking some coffee along the way. So, please don't.
Jokes.
So, Gina, our first question for you is, what is your background? Which is, like, do you have any siblings? How many family members do you have? Where did you grow up? And all that fun stuff.
Okay, so I am the only girl out of 4 kids. I have 3
Really?
brothers. Yeah,
Wow.
it was crazy. I have 3 brothers, 2 older, 1 younger. And we grew up in Delaware our whole life, Dover, Delaware. And actually, we moved 13 times in the state.
Are you
Real
serious?
crazy. Yeah, so crazy. But we actually grew up in an Italian American culture, and so we're very family oriented. We'd have big family get-togethers for Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthday parties. Yeah, so I mean and we have a big influx of different cultures too. Very mixed, which I love.
Damn, that's
awesome.
crazy. So
Yeah.
you moved 13 times all in
That's
Delaware.
insane.
Yeah.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, we're super indecisive family.
Nice. I get that. Cool. So what brought you here to University of Valley Forge, and tell us like what major you were in undergrad and how you've kind of transitioned into pursuing a master's degree and all that.
Yeah, so it kind of starts when I first became a Christian. I did not grow up in a very Pentecostal Christian household. I gave my life to the Lord going into my junior year of high school, and I just took off 110 miles an hour. And Valley Forge was honestly the first place I heard of. And when I came to visit the school, I felt this huge peace about being here. And it was during Christmas at Valley Forge, so it wasn't during
Oh, wow.
Like an open house. or
Yeah,
anything?
exactly.
A normal, like, tour.
Right.
Yeah.
And I came with some friends, so it was very much, I got to see their end of it, and just
Right.
seeing everybody in the hallways and in their dorms and talking and seeing scripture everywhere, and just the community is really what drew me here. And then I majored in intercultural studies with a focus
cool.
in youth.
Oh, really?
And then I am transitioned into a master's of organizational leadership. So I actually changed my major twice. I was youth major, and then psych, and then intercultural studies. But I wanted that background of being able to connect with different cultures and understanding different perspectives, and because I didn't feel like I was going to be in a church youth group setting. I want to be in more of a foster care, orphanage kind of deal.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. What challenges have you faced in college? And you don't have to talk about like any like huge major challenge. You could talk about like a couple little ones, but wherever you feel like you would want to share of possible challenges that you had, like while you were here, like what would some of them be?
Yeah, well, transition is always a challenge. Transitioning from high school into college, transitioning from undergrad to grad, from student to employee. I've always found challenges in the transition, but through the challenges, God always reveals more of who I am in Him. And so when you're going through this uncertainty kind of ordeal, He's still super solid and the same. And it's always a good reminder. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I question it, but I do. And then He just reminds you. But so always through the transitions, and then most recently it's been a big challenge is just finding balance and being healthy physically, spiritually, mentally.
Yeah.
Huge. So I'm learning to value that and see Him through that too.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes we like to separate them.
Right.
and
Yeah.
say that mental health isn't spiritual health and physical
They go
health isn't
together for
spiritual health.
sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
they all go together.
yeah.
Dang, that must be crazy, like balancing master's degree, like homework and a full-time position here
Yeah.
and everything.
Because like, where do you work right now?
I work in student life.
Yeah.
And so I'm the assistant campus director and student programming coordinator.
It's a lot.
It's a mouthful.
And
Yeah.
you run the campus activities board, right?
So I
Yeah.
oversee that. I oversee commuters. I oversee the redemptive path process that we have here, and oversee chapel ushers. And there's always, I mean, student life is a team, so there's always things we're picking up.
Yeah.
But there's definitely been multiple times where I've cried, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, like
You grow from
Yeah,
it. And
yeah.
you really
learn how
do.
to manage, but it's been intense, but I've learned so much about myself, learned so much about
Yeah.
God and about what he's doing through Valley Forge.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter necessarily the glorification of people, but of him.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's a huge thing I've
That's
been
so
learning
cool.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was gonna be like our next thing is like, what's the Lord like lately been teaching you? Like for me, I know it's been like, kind of like what you were saying, like finding rest and like putting mental health
Yes.
at the same like priority level as other things, you know, because sometimes it's easy to
Yeah.
let that fall down the totem pole.
Oh my gosh,
But like
yeah.
for you, what's been like,
Also, like with physical health too.
yeah,
Because
true.
like we get like so caught up with like schoolwork, and then when we don't have schoolwork, we just want to like sit and watch Netflix or like Disney Plus.
Yeah.
But like you kind of have to like force yourself to go out and do something, or else you might not, because laziness is.
Oh yeah, of course.
Just
Laziness
sit in
is
your
a
room.
real. Yeah, I do that a lot.
Lay on your floor and watch Netflix.
Oh my gosh,
Yes.
yeah. Or YouTube.
Yes.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
TikTok, you know.
TikTok.
whatever.
That's a bad. That's an addiction.
Oh, so bad.
That's
But anyways, it's
yeah.
fine.
But yeah, like what Raymond had said, like what is like something specific that God has been teaching you lately?
Well, everything that I was saying in terms of mental health, but honestly, being able to speak up for myself and find balance in everyday life, and then prioritizing academics, because
Yeah.
though I'm in a master's, it can be super easy to put all of my work first, and I'm still a student.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and I don't want to not get what I'm technically paying for, you know what I
Right,
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
With my time and just,
Yeah, it all goes back to like balancing it all, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
yep.
Balance
Dang,
is key.
tough.
And yeah, it's really interesting how like sometimes like you might not even think of it, or sometimes you even forget like how much that God can show through like those small like little moments.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it also helps that like we're at a Christian school where we have those people by us that are like, hey, like, have you prayed today?
Right, like,
We're just like,
checking on you.
yeah, just
Yeah.
checking, or even like the question like, what can I pray for you today? And like you stop and think, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh wait,
Everything.
whoa, everything, life in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were there any challenges like within like academics that just kind of like stood out to you like while you were here before you started like your master's?
Well, I was also in leadership, a lot of leadership. So I was an ARA, and then I was an RA for 2 years. And then I also worked as a student worker in student life. So I've been in student life for almost 4 years now. Big challenge. I mean, it's essentially the same thing, but learning who you can trust to keep close to you, I guess, who won't change because of your position, or who would still be honest with you and pour into you, because you're pouring in so much, you need somebody to pour into you too. So a good spiritual role model, but friend at the same time. So
Yeah.
the challenge was definitely finding that for sure, and trusting it. And plus that just goes back to hit past stuff with not trusting people. And we all have
Yeah.
pasts.
Oh yeah.
But coming to a place where I went to a public high school, had nobody, to this Christian school that everybody wants to be your friend, it's hard.
And like you're praying in classes. That was like an adjustment for me from
Yeah.
public school.
Yep.
It took me like a solid month. Like they'd be like, all right, let's pray. And I was like, what? Yeah. So like that's definitely an adjustment. But
With all that, like, where do you hope to go in the near future? Like, after you finish your degree and everything, like, what's next?
Next. I have, oh man. Actually, that's another big lesson I learned from undergrad. I interned in Japan for 3 months, and
No
I
way.
totally.
I remember you talking about that before, yeah.
And I totally put my identity in being a missionary. So, I've learned not to make solid plans of my own because God will always.
He laughs at our own
Oh my
plans,
gosh!
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I had all good intentions, but it ultimately came down to still me trying to prove something of myself when, like, Jesus already did all that
Did
for
all that,
us.
yeah.
So going into the future, I'm hesitant and I want to be listening. But where I see myself after here is looking for jobs in Virginia to find a place in either the public school system or, like I said, foster care. I want to provide counseling, free sessions, free services, for middle schoolers, high schoolers in a public school setting,
Wow.
or who's going through foster care, who's going just through these big life crisis. And I think people often look at middle school age as naive, even high schoolers as naive, and they're not. And I just want to be an advocate for them and then allow them the opportunity to have a voice. And so eventually getting another master's in clinical psychology is the goal.
Wow.
So, but I want to get my foot in there too. So I'm not just random, I guess. You know what I mean? Like it's as much as it is about the schooling, it is also about connections and
Yeah, 100%.
So I think that's all of like the really like
Yeah.
serious questions that we have for you. Because that was a lot of serious questions, but I think that was like really nice because I learned a lot more about you than
Yeah.
I knew. Because like we don't really like talk on a
Right.
regular
Right.
basis. So
Right.
I think that was really cool to like get to. And I really hope that like you guys enjoyed
Yeah.
like getting to know like some little like things inside of her life and what makes Gina Campagnini tick.
Cool,
So
so-
on like a lighter note,
Yes.
we have
So,
some coffee questions.
Yay.
would you mind sharing your go-to coffee shop and go-to coffee order?
Okay, so I don't necessarily have a go-to place because I go anywhere and I never remember the names. I'm
Yeah.
not picky at all, but I'll oftentimes make coffee at home. I went to Puerto Rico a couple years ago to visit family out there, and they make this coffee from this brand called Jocono, which is really good. And
sounds
they put the milk and sugar on stovetop to make it a little more creamier, and then combined it. Oh my gosh, it's so good. So I will be satisfied with that. But if it is on the go, Wawa is my place.
Yes,
there
here we
you
go.
I think they're underrated.
For
But
sure. At Wow, where you gotta go for half hazelnut, half hot chocolate.
ooh,
It's fire.
With some
It's so
hazelnut
good.
creamer.
Mhm.
He introduced me to that, and it's like that's what I get when I
Wow.
go to
So
Wawa.
good.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah,
Sweet.
all right. I think that wraps up all of our main questions. If you guys want to get to know Gina, we can always put her like contact
Yeah,
information.
for
underneath.
sure.
Yeah.
yeah.
If you
On
guys
the
have any
IG
questions for
handle.
her, yeah, Instagram handle, anything fancy schmancy like that. But thank you guys so much for joining us on our first ever big Cool Beans podcast
Yeah.
with Gina. We
Thanks,
really-
Gina, for being
Yeah,
here,
thank
taking
you.
the time to do
Of
this.
Yeah.
For sure.
We really hope that you guys enjoyed it. We really enjoyed it, getting to know her more. Yeah, and then all the basic stuff, like, subscribe,
Oh, yeah,
comment
comment.
below. We'll see you next week.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's Cool Beans.